Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down, and technically a special edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. That's right, folks. It is 10/1/21, which means it's October 1st, and we are in one of my favorite months of the year, and that is October. And if October is in and you're at the Cinema Sit Down, then you know that we are getting ready to dive into a Spooktober countdown. And we kick it off with a very special day. We got a pair of new movies out that we are talking about today. I may or may not be telegraphing one on my chest, and I may or may not be talking about a Lego Star Wars movie. But you're going to get 2 reviews today, and then throughout the rest of the month you will have an additional 30. I don't quite have all of them figured out. I've been procrastinating a little bit this month. But I'm almost there. I got about 5 spots left to fill out. I'm going to get those filled out before the day is over. I will tweet out the Spooktober list so that you have it. You will see it pop up come next review. But for now, we're just going to simply dive into the latest on the big screen and the latest in the world of comic book movies. And something that gets me really excited, man, because very rarely do I get to slip some comic movies into a Spooktober list. But this year I get to. If somehow you don't know what I'm talking about, why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into Venom. Let there be Carnage. And I gotta tell you guys, man, I'm sure it won't surprise anybody, but I had a fantastic time at the theater today. I know a lot of you were not huge fans of the first Venom. I heard lots of it was a turd rolling in the wind. I know there are a lot of you that really thoroughly enjoyed it, much like myself. And while I can sit here and admit to you that it wasn't a great movie and the script was kind of rough, the thing that I was just looking for in going into a Venom-only movie was Tom Hardy's performance to be stellar, and the combination of him doing Eddie and Venom and the banter that they have nailed that element, and it needed to make a bunch of money so you can maybe make a second one. That's exactly what it did. Made a ton of money. And then, you had a phenomenal performance from Hardy to get us to this one. And, you also set up the fact that Cletus Cassidy is in play and that you're leading toward Carnage. You got a lot of Venom fans pretty excited. A lot of Spider-Man fans pretty excited. And the thing with this movie is it's not perfect. It's kind of similar in some ways to the first. And when you're talking about the script, which comes to us from Kelly Marcel, and the story from Tom Hardy, which I actually think is very important to the successful elements of the movie. I think when you have a character like a Venom, similar to like a Deadpool, you need your actor to be very attached to that character. And when you have a character actor like Tom Hardy, you have somebody who knows that character so deeply. To not have him involved in the story or in the script in some way, I don't think is smart. So to see him, and I wasn't expecting him to see his name as one of 2 people responsible for the story part of it, him and Marcel, and then Marcel wrote the screenplay. But I think it's important to have him creatively involved, and you can tell just watching the movie that him and Serkis must have had a good relationship on set, and they must have had a lot of fun, because the movie is a lot of fun. And spoilers, I saw it in 4DX, which was freaking phenomenal. Like, anytime you're gonna go see an action or a superhero or a Star Wars movie, and you can see it in 4DX, you gotta do it, because it so enhances the experience, man. I mean, your chair lifts up, it's moving around. There's a scene during, the finale fight where Carnage and Venom finally get to go at it, where my chair was freaking moving around like I was on the spinner cups in Disney, man. I was having a blast. The wind was whipping around the theater, and that definitely enhanced the experience and my enjoyment of it. But remove the 4DX stuff, and you still have a wildly entertaining movie, even if it's not perfect. And I think some of the issues that Marcel has that kind of carry over from that first movie are, you kind of go back to the superhero setup movie again for Venom, because while him and Eddie have a much more symbiotic relationship, Eddie's not ready to be the hero that Venom wants to be. And Venom is always pushing, for the lethal protector angle. He wants to be a hero, and Eddie's not there yet. And this movie is a second time kind of getting them there. And if there was something to knock the movie on, that's certainly one of them, because we did that in the first movie, I guess you could say, well, that was more about them becoming symbiotic. This is more about them becoming heroes. okay, that's fine. But like if I was going to kind of knock it, that's one thing that is a little rough. The other thing that I think the 90-minute movie kind of hurts here is some of the development in and around someone like Cletus Cassidy and Carnage. While I think Marcel does a wonderful job of getting a lot of groundwork laid in a very quick time, and Andy Serkis also delivers it, I think, quite well from a pacing standpoint inside of the movie. The relationship between him and Carnage early on seems like, oh man, he's more powerful and more dangerous than Venom was because they seem to be symbiotic immediately. However, because of the love angle that plays into the Cletus storyline with Shriek, when you start getting more toward the end of the movie, that symbiotic relationship starts to deteriorate a little bit. And I think you could have massaged and fleshed that out a little bit more so it felt a little smoother. But it worked enough because like you just get to a point where once you understand what Carnage is trying to accomplish, the tension between him and Cassidy makes sense. But I think you could have gotten it cleaned up a little bit. But outside of that, man, I'd be nitpicking. And to be honest, what Marcel does from the script is she keeps it simple. It's a revenge movie. I mean, Cletus has reason to be going after Eddie and Venom. And, Shriek, who he's obviously going to go break out, which we've seen in the trailers, she's got a revenge angle for herself. There you go, man. Like, you just set that up at the start, and then it's how do I get to that finale? And it stays nice and simple. And from the Venom side of things, like I said, you're talking about these two dealing with their symbiotic relationship and finding that common ground. And, they got to go through some bumps to do that. But as they get there and that symbiotic relationship becomes even stronger, like I said, you're kind of doing the hero setup. Although I do like the elements of the movie that they bring in with Anne and Dr. Dan. I enjoyed that. I think there's some fun potentially to be had with Eddie and Anne and Venom. Certainly seems like you could go that route, but Dr. Dan, dude does something in this movie where I was like, oh, I did not expect that from Dr. Dan, and kind of made me like, I can't be mad that he's got Anne anymore, man. Like he does like a really cool thing where I was like, you just won my respect, man. And he may have won the respect of other characters in the movie because of what he does. But I think there's some fun to be there, and I was glad how they played with that. There were elements in bringing those characters back in that I think worked to add to the Venom story. So after that, like Andy Serkis, I did expect something a little bit different, I think, both tonally and the approach to the movie. But the fact is, him and Marcel kind of follow suit with how that first Venom felt like a 90s throwback action movie. And leaning in super hard into that symbiotic relationship with Eddie and Venom and the banter between the two of them. And all that stuff works all the time. And it's wildly entertaining. And as you're moving through this really quick-paced movie, you're having a good time because of all that stuff. And being, a 90s kid, I love any time we go back to something that feels that way. And yes, the movie's a little bit silly, but I think it's meant to be a little silly. It plays into the enjoyment factor of it. And I just think what Serkis does from behind the camera works for the pacing that he has in the movie. And then obviously from the visuals, I mean, you're talking about the king of being CGI characters and knowing how to work with that stuff. He creates really fun sequences and dazzling sequences for Carnage and for Venom and for the two of them when they finally meet in the middle. And yes, someone like Shriek gets a little bit more underserved, specifically in a 90-minute movie. But when she gets to, do some things, it's cool. It works. There's interesting things that they do with sound for both characters in the movie that allows them to have fun. And I think Serkis had a good grip on all that stuff. And then you have this cast, right? And that's where your bread and butter is. That's your moneymaker, is this cast, and Tom Hardy in particular. And once again, he crushes, man. Like, he's so funny as Venom. Like, Venom, I love the voice. It's so unique and, like, at times familiar. Like there are moments where he's got kind of like a little bit of an Arnie thing going on. but like it works. And watching them go at it, especially early, like Venom's hungry. It's hard to be good when you're used to eating brains. And there's a lot of fun banter to be had with trying to keep Venom in control. And I love the journey that they go on as a couple, so to speak. They have a really kind of fun arc that allows you to do things that you did that were successful in the first one and do them, I think, even better here. Then you got Woody Harrelson. And I mean, yes, it is what you hoped. It's Woody tapping back into that natural born killers vibe, and he's so fun. And like, I just love everything that he does from a performance standpoint. Where like, there's good chunks of the movie where he's not really there because Carnage is there. What he brings to it, specifically from the physicality, I mean, he really gets to act a lot in the beginning, and what he does with Cletus when he's in prison leading up to the death sentence. It's a lot of fun. Like, he chews on the scenery real good. And then when you get into the Carnage stuff, like, I love the fact that while he looks and functions similar to Venom, there are differences, like the way in which he transforms. Venom is more of a, I'm taking over Tom Hardy's body. This is more of a, I explode out of Woody Harrelson's. Like, you'll see, like we saw in the trailer, like the whites of his eyes explode to become the eyes in Carnage. And that's a cool visual. And what he does from performance-wise, like, you see him, specifically the way that he's, the character design is on Cletus himself, and you'd expect him to be maybe light and kind of spry, But Woody brings this weight. Like, he is a crazy, sadistic serial killer. And he walks with, like, a lot of thumping purpose, and there's a lot of weight to everything he does, so that when he becomes Carnage, the Carnage hits hard, and I love that stuff. And that stems from the performance that you get from Harrelson. And that's the stuff that makes this movie shine. And then, like I said, from a visual standpoint, he's different enough in the way that he moves, specifically with the tendrils. They nail that. Like, it was like they ripped Carnage off the page of the comics. And the way he moves, the way he functions, the tendrils, the spikes that he throws, so spot on. But then there's like just the way that the body moves and the way that it can expand out and cover more ground than Venom ever covers. Again, very similar to the comics. And in a movie where you can't have blood, you're able to use Carnage to kind of create a blood-like illusion as he takes things over or manifests or extends his tendrils, and you see them split sometimes, and it creates like bat wing texture, and like it's just gross and cool, and he hits all the horror beats that you would want in a Carnage performance, even though you don't have the blood. And I honestly thought that was super impressive, because I didn't think it was possible to do a non-rated R Venom movie if Carnage was involved. And while I think it would be beneficial to have gone R, I think Serkis finds a lane to make Carnage work without it, and Harrelson, performance-wise, absolutely does. Then you've got Naomi Harris in here, and yes, she's 100% underserved, and in a 90-minute movie is bound to happen to someone, specifically when you have multiple villains. But when she gets screen time, she just dominates it, man. Like, everything she did with Shriek was phenomenal. I loved it. I think there was some risk to some of the decisions she makes, but she's fully committed to every decision she makes, and it works on screen. And character concept wise, she's cool looking, man. Like the different colored eye and the scar that she has and how all of that happens, like, it works, and you can feel the pain and rage in her from being separated from Cletus. And that was another thing that I thought was very impressive from both Marcel and Serkis. How they told a lot of the Carnage, or the Cletus and the Shriek background story, thought was very, very clever. And it was a fun little thing that filled in a ton of detail very, very quickly. And it gives depth to this character that unfortunately doesn't get as much screen time as I think Naomi Harris deserved, because man, she knocks it out. Like, she is a scene stealer. And that was fun. I just wish that you would have had maybe that extra 20, 30 minutes where you could have fleshed out Carnage a little bit more and given Shriek some more stuff to do. But Also interesting when you have, and granted that's a comic book thing, right? Like Carnage and Shriek, but it is interesting when your power is detrimental to your boyfriend. Like you can't quite use it as much as you would want to. And again, that's one of those things that I think could have enhanced the movie, but with what we got, Harris absolutely nails it. And the other two kind of big ones for me are Michelle Williams and Reed Scott, who play Anne and Dr. Dan. Like I said earlier, like what Serkis does with them and Marcel does with them from a story standpoint, I loved. Michelle Williams, she has a blast. Like when you watch her interact with Eddie, you get one thing, and when you watch her interact with Venom, you get a completely different thing. And that completely different thing is so fun. And like I said, seems like it could be setting up some more fun for some of the characters, and I wouldn't be against it because I love every time that they get into some of the things that they do with those characters. But Reed Scott gets legit screen time this time, and the character, like I said, does some cool things, and he's really good. Like, he wins you over in both the performance and with what the character does in the movie. Where I'm like, I hope Reed Scott could be involved in whatever fun everybody else is having. There comes to be a Venom 3. And then you got Stephen Graham, who plays Detective Mulligan, and this is another one of those spots where, like, I would have liked to have seen something a little bit different. Eddie kind of keeps him out of what's going on, so instead of having kind of like this team up between Eddie, Venom, and, you know, Detective Mulligan, you kind of just have Mulligan running around like a chicken without his head, not knowing what's going on. And, you know, while it provides the comedy beats and things that you need in the movie for the story, I think it would have worked better if he could have been involved more in the story. And then I also have to call out Peggy Lou, Mrs. Chen. We love Mrs. Chen, and her interactions with Venom are amazing. And they give Mrs. Chen some really good and some even more fun screen time than she had the first one. And I love that stuff. And, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, you end up with a movie that, yeah, it's not perfect. And yeah, there are things you could get on it about, but if you're okay with buying in and laughing with a movie that's willing to be kind of silly, and as action-packed as it is, it's a really easy movie to go have fun for 90 minutes with. Now, granted, if you have people sitting next to you who have a child and an adult who just refuse to stop talking like they're sitting in their living room, it's a little bit less fun. But you know what? Big guy, I hope he was watching, because it was very hard for me to bite my tongue, but I was like, I'm going to respect the fact that the kid is young. But, like, parents, listen to me right now. If you take your kids to a movie, specifically a movie that they probably shouldn't be seeing, like, yes, I get it's a superhero movie, but it's a PG-13 movie for a reason. I don't think 5, 6, 7-year-old kids should be seeing that type of stuff, but hey, you do you. If you're going to bring those kids, make sure they know how to act in a movie theater. Talking at regular volume for an entire movie is not behaving yourself in a movie theater. And that family's lucky I bit my tongue out of the respect for the fact that he was a kid. But I swear, if you know who you are if you were in New Rochelle 40X. And if you see this video, teach your kid to be quiet during a movie, please, because it's way harder to enjoy it. But you end up with, I think, a fairly entertaining movie. And like it or not, usually the last thing you get is the taste that is left in your mouth, and kind of can play into how you react. And there is a mid-credit scene. There's not a post-credit scene. Google lied to me and told me that there was. And I don't mind sitting through the credits because the people that work on these things deserve to be recognized, and I love reading those names. But one mid-credit scene, you'll get like your animated credits, and then you'll get your scene, and then you'll go to your full credits. But that scene, no spoilers, that scene is something people are going to be talking about, and is something that people are going to be excited about. And I'm sure there are probably some people that will be the opposite of that, because there always are. But it is something that is going to make fans talk. It's going to be something to get excited about, to theorize about, and it's one of those things where walking out of the movie, you're just like, dude, I can't wait for whatever's next for Venom, man, because if what they're messing with is what I think they're messing with, we're going to have some more fun with Venom. And I think there is an ability and a way to step up and maybe hit what I think we all really would love to see as a perfect Venom film. But I would definitely love to see Serkis come back and get another go. And I'd even be down to have Marcel write the script again. Just give me something a little bit bigger. But for what this smaller, quick fun Venom movie was, well, why don't we give it a score? Get the C-Maniacs up. There they are. And like I said, fantastic visual effects. Venom and Carnage are both fantastic. We knew what we were getting with Venom. The stuff they do with Carnage is great, and the differences between the two of them are so fun. Harrelson and Hardy absolutely knock it out of the ballpark. Watching them have fun both against each other, in the same room as each other, and with their own symbiotes is a ton of fun. And everybody else that shows up and comes to play is all here for everything that's going on in this very quickly paced kind of madness that's happening. But you get to see cool things, and you get cool performances, and I think you have enough here that's enjoyable and entertainable that even though it's not perfect, 3.5 ain't bad, baby. And that's what I'm going with, man. 3.5 out of 5 C-Maniacs for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. This is one of those popcorn flicks where it's like, hey, man, turn your brain off, kick back, maybe go for a ride if you got a 4DX theater, and just have a blast, man. Like, these are those types of movies where if you embrace it, and this is what happened with the first one, you get to have a ton of fun, and at some point they bring it back, and you get to have a ton of fun doing more of the fun things that you enjoy. And that's what you get from Venom, Let There Be Carnage. But now, C-Man's done. I've been talking your ear off for way too freaking long to kick off our Spooktober countdown with Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So it's your turn, man. I want to know everything you're thinking. Are you a fan of Venom? Are you a fan of Carnage? What were you hoping for in this movie? And then if you saw it, what did you get? Did it work for you? Did you mind that it was silly? That it kind of did a lot of the things that it was doing in the first movie? Or do you wish they would have taken a slightly stronger, serious tone and maybe done something a little bit darker? Do you think the 90 minutes worked or didn't work to its advantage? And if you haven't seen the movie, well, has the old C-Man enticed you to want to see the movie? I hope I have, man, because it's a good time. But let me know what you're looking for, what you were hoping for, what you took away from my comments, and whether or not you'll go see the movie, and where you'll see it. And if you saw it in 4DX, please let me know and tell me if it enhanced the movie for you, because I think it's always a wild ride anytime you get into the 4DX theater. But let me know everything you got going on with Venom, Let There Be Carnage, or Spooktober. If you got any ideas or recommendations, maybe you could slip them in late right before I post it, or what you're looking forward to. If you have your own Spooktober list, leave it all down below in the comments section. Look forward to talking to y'all down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out and see me anytime we talk movies, TV, trailer reactions, you want to be here for the next 31 movies we get to talk about during Spooktober, and just, my Halloween coverage, or you just dig what I'm doing, you want to show a little love, a little support, well, then, hey, why don't you come join C-Maniac Nation? Super easy. All you got to do is jump over there, man. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell if you want them alerts. Until next time, C-Man's Cinema. Sit down. I've been the C-Man. I am signing off. Peace.
Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.